Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Front Door Show, brought to you by Four Fantastic Events. I'm your host, DJ Prieto, and today we have musical guest, Angel Rodriguez, band leader of the Humble Park Orchestra, and personal friend of mine. How you doing, Angel?
I'm doing fine, brother. How are you doing?
Good, 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 good. Doing this every day. So, ironically, I don't know if
Yeah, yeah.
I so ironically, before you go into the intro, I just want to make an announcement that I won't be doing this every day because of the summertime. Starting tomorrow, actually, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there will be no show. But the show will be on Monday through Thursday. Only reason why we're going to be doing that is because things are opening up, and we know people are out on the weekends. And it makes no sense. Competing with this beautiful weather and being outside. So the show will be back on Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Everybody's going to be out and about. So
Cool. Yeah, like I was telling you, I mean, I do the well, number one, this is strange because it's a role reversal. I'm not used to being interviewed. So when I started doing mine, I was doing it 3 days a week, and I don't know how you've been doing it every day because it's a huge undertaking.
Well, I mean, also there was because I know me and you had talked about when you did your show, and I was doing the streaming, and then I said, "Oh, I'm going to do this show." I know that was a different conversation that I was going to have with my interviewers that you're having with your interviewers because you have your own show, right? What is it called again?
It's an hour with hours, and it's
Yeah,
basically where I try to interview like the local Latin musicians, vocalists, things like that. Kind of like a behind the scenes look at who they are and where they came from, all that kind of stuff. So that show will still be happening. I tried to do it times a week. I did this for a little bit during all the social unrest, but we will be opposite your show because you'll be doing Monday through Thursday, and my show I try to do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just to
right,
try to
right.
emulate kind of the lifestyle of the musician. So for people that didn't get a chance to see us out there performing, which hopefully will be out there sometime soon.
All right. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell them who you are because the people are logging on, and I want people to, kind of tell them who you are, in your words.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Angel Rodriguez. I'm a local musician here in Chicago, Illinois, trumpet player, and I have my own salsa orchestra now, Humble Park Orchestra, which I started in December of 2013 with your help or with your guidance at that time. But I've been a local musician here on the scene since the mid '90s, so I go a little bit back. I'm not one of the real vets, but I have a little bit of knowledge of the scene since the '90s.
Right. And did you get a chance to see the interview last night with the where the salsa started interview that I had with?
I did get to see some of it. Yeah, I'm sure the controversial word it's also start. Yeah, I didn't see it all, so I'm sure I missed some of the good comments that are out there. But it's always a very spirited thing because everyone loves salsa and everyone loves to claim it as theirs. So I'm sure that I'll have to sit down and watch the whole show.
Yeah, that it's an interesting topic. I mean, obviously, just like you, when I started in this industry, I didn't start in the salsa scene. And I'm going to go back to where I believe that's the same thing happened with you. You didn't start as a musician. You started. So let's go back. Um, because you said you play trumpet, but let's talk about your history of how did you get into music? What was it?
Sure. So growing up, not really like a musical family, nothing like that. My stepfather had a trumpet in the house, and I ended up seeing it one day and kind of um, really wasn't that interested in it, but it was kind of like, oh, it's an instrument. Didn't really know how to play it or anything. And then lo and behold, I think my memory, if it serves me correct, probably around fourth or fifth grade, they had like a music presentation at school where they like laid out the instruments and, kind of like a band program where, what instrument are you interested in playing in? And the trumpet was really the only one that I kind of recognized because I've seen it before. So I was like, well, I don't really know much about it, but I'll kind of pick, like, my stepfather never played it or anything around the house. I believe he played up until college, sporadically, but then I never heard him play it or anything like that. He might have picked it up one day and played it. But so I picked that instrument, and it was, well, it's a difficult instrument. So for me, I picked it up and started playing or trying to learn how to play. Fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. By eighth grade, I was at a private school with maybe a super small band where I was the only trumpet player. So really, you don't have anyone to compare yourself to. So myself thinking like maybe I was an okay trumpet player, quickly found out when I got to high school that I was not. I was like way behind. Um, my deficiencies were many. My parents were doing the best that they could, but financially we were struggling. So I had like kind of a very inexpensive, cheap, beginner trumpet that was gold, but like with kind of tarnish because it wasn't real gold. So like kind of turned green and turned my hand green, which was a little bit embarrassing, but great support, great support system at my local high school where the trumpet players and the band director were very super supportive. And, the band director at that time, Mr. Shemeka, which if he's out there, hopefully he'll watch this one day. Much love to him, for helping out my family, helping us get like a loan or kind of a payment plan going to get a better trumpet. And really started applying myself to the trumpet between my freshman and sophomore year. And then I saw, at least they saw like a big development from where I was ability wise until my sophomore year in high school. And then from there, I just studied my butt off. I really dedicated myself to practicing and trying to get more proficient on the trumpet. My senior year of high school, switched band directors, and Mr. Brian Wiss, who's still a friend that I keep in touch with, was a new band director that had, I believe at the time, just came from Northern Illinois, had graduated from there with a music degree. So, he heard me and he was like, man, I can't believe like you're a good trumpet player. For me, I would say my inspiration at that time was like Maynard Ferguson, who's a very well-known high note trumpet player for like high school kids love him. In my generation growing up, he was like the model of what you wanted to be able to attain. I couldn't play those high notes, but I can get a little bit up there. And my band director was really impressed. He's like, "Have you thought about what you want to do in college yet?" And I'm like, "No, not really." He's like, "You should think about NIU, and they have a really good jazz program." So I ended up going to NIU. And once again, you kind of have this idea that, well, okay, maybe I have some kind of ability now. So I never went in there cocky or anything like that, but went in there thinking, okay, I can hold my own. But once again, you're humbled right away that the great musicians that were there, they just put you in your place. Not in a bad way, but they just, hands down, they had way more talent. And same thing, humbled myself and applied myself, and they showed me what I needed to study. Two great trumpet teachers there, Mark Ponzo, Ron Modell, at the time that I was there. Did 3 years of like classical classical trumpet, and then my third year, I think Dan Stark, the trombone player that plays with Carpaccio's band.
Yeah, yeah.
So Dan was at NIU at the time, and we had met through there. And he's like, "Hey, I play in the salsa band." He's like, "Are you interested?" This is the first time ever. I never heard salsa. Never, it wasn't part of my upbringing at all.
So let me stop you right there. So
Yeah.
this is one of the important things that I think a message that we have to let people know is that you had mentioned about your teachers, your instructors.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that they get not recognized as much as they should be recognized, and that's all across the board because a lot of music teachers, just instructors of any kind, I think it's very important because that molds your life, in growing up. And I think for all those teachers out there, especially when it comes to crafts, being at whatever craft it is, especially in high school. I think they are the unsung heroes of a lot of people's talents, and they should be more recognized, I just think because you were talking about your teacher and how you remember the names and so forth. It's one of the
Oh
things
man.
that that's
Yeah, I mean, they were so inspirational for me. And luckily at the time, I understood how important they were and didn't think that I knew it all and really listened to their instruction and um, in every way, like in classical playing, from the people that they gave me musical examples of who to listen to and emulate, to jazz, who to listen to and emulate. And then the same thing, I didn't have that school training when it came to Latin music. But when I got into my first band, Orquesta Chévere from Aurora, the lead singer at that time, Adolfo Lugo, who passed, may he rest in peace, but a great singer. He played back in the day with Mike Rivera and Edwin Sanchez in a group called Típica 78.
yep.
L.A. Despada, Teddy Serrano. I mean, a lot of great guys in that band. And he was a great vocalist. At the time, he was older than me. So you know how it is when I was a late teens. And to me, he seemed old. I'm sure he was my age that I am now at that time. But it really took me under his wing. He's like, hey, you know how to play jazz and stuff, but this isn't jazz. You don't play this music that way. Not in a mean way, but set me straight, back in the day of cassette tapes, and check this out. This is what you need to listen to. Fania All Stars, Gran Combo. Just giving me all kinds, and that band was very diverse because they played probably about 50% merengue, 50% salsa. So
I
for
think
me,
there's a
I
picture of you posted, right, that you have of you being in that band, right?
I probably do. I don't know if I have many pictures of me in that group, but that group ended after Adolfo passed. The group continued under new vocalist. But that group ended up being with another band much later after I had been on the Chicago scene and came back to Aurora to help them out. That was, oh my Lord, my memory is getting so bad here. I'm trying to remember the new name that they had. I'm sure that someone on Facebook will point this out to me. I got a watch party going, so hopefully, I don't want to be disrespectful and say the wrong name. But Orquesta Chévere, I believe, turned into Banda Rica. I think that was the group, and that group was
Oh,
also out of Aurora. It's just that it's not that I don't remember all these great musicians, but I played with so many groups. It's hard to remember everyone's name. It's like I exclusively played with that group, like me, and I was starting from ground zero. So I'm starting
right.
from not fluent in Spanish, don't know the difference between merengue and salsa. Like I'm starting, and I'm a musician. If you put the music in front of me, I can play the music. But stylistically, I wasn't playing it correctly. I was playing like a jazz musician or a big band trumpet player trying to play salsa, and that's not the way that you play that music. So right away, the authenticity was out the window, and they're like, no, we're gonna play this music, we're gonna play it right, and I love that. They gave me stuff to listen to. I applied myself immensely. I went from playing from that group to Dan once again, start instrumental in my next musical journey, which was going from that group to playing on a cruise ship as a musician. So I started playing like we kind of I have to do like the strolling. I'm sorry, not the dinner band. We were the show band, so I wouldn't have to do like the strolling dinner sets and stuff like that, or the poolside when steel blazery and stuff. We would only do like the main shows at night. So it'd be like whatever comedians, ventriloquists, hypnotists, whatever they bring on the thing. We rehearse with them during the daytime at Port, where everyone is out, shopping and stuff, and then that night we would do our shows. But that for me was once again a great opportunity. Once a week, I wanted to be with Miami on Sundays, and on Tuesday, the very first port we came to was San Juan, Puerto Rico. So my first time ever there, fell in love instantly. I was really a fan of salsa music, obviously, because I had been playing in a salsa band, and I knew some of the music, but man, I hooked on right away. Found the nearest store. I was like that, going straight to the music store, buy as many CDs and cassette tapes as I could. I had my little boombox with my roommate on the ship, and just apply myself and just try to saturate as much as that as I could. I remember having this little Walkman. I would sit on the top deck. That time it was like mid '90s, so it's Rigorese, it's Mark Anthony, it's La India, it's all the people that are hitting in the mid '90s on the salsa side, and on the merengue side, it's Manny Manuel, No Gotañon, and for me it was just like being at this epicenter of this greatness that I loved going to PR every week. So for me, that was great. And then when I came back from doing the ship, I ended up on the Chicago scene. Started out with Freddie Kenton Sr. On the merengue side, was one of my first bands that I played with. And then on the salsa side, got hooked up right away with like Orquesta Isla, Ocho Cero Nueve at that time. And you know, for me, it was just like the best of both worlds. Once again, I was being immersed with like the best top musicians and the top bands, and it was a who's who of the merengue bands and a who's who of the salsa
I,
bands.
and you were playing
Been, with.
Tropicana, if I'm not mistaken. That was that time you were playing at Tropicana.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. When I got on the scene, I would say that the things went on the scene were Tropicana, Intas, and Village Cafe. Those were, I'm sure there had to be one more because I remember they performed so many times a month. It just work was ridiculous. Like we were easily 12 to 16 times a month playing with like 10-piece bands. It wasn't, you know, it was just a way different culture then. And it was like the heyday at the time. I didn't think that that would be like my heyday, like from the mid 90s to the early, pretty much to 9/11. It was like that kind of
Well,
period
that
where
was
like the best band.
well, that was where there were sometimes three bands in one night, in a nightclub.
For sure.
They would rotate bands. It
For
was probably
sure.
the for and probably the I want to say the high of for live bands, because what I remember Tropicana, there would be a band, there would be a beginner band, a middle band, and a closing band. So we had three bands in the night, and I think that was the way it was for nightclubs. All being a Village Cafe, Intas, or if people would go to a club and they would hear a salsa band, a merengue band, and then a salsa band. It was kind of like that. That's how they would give the variety and stuff like that. And I remember that was as you said, the heydays of salsa bands in Chicago.
Man, it was such a great time. And like I said, I feel bad that I missed out on everything pre mid 90s. Like I don't know what the scene was like in the 70s and 80s. I hear a lot of great stories of the level of the quality of the bands that were there. Because it's not always necessarily the amount of bands, it's just the quality of the musicianship. And when I got on the scene, there was definitely no lack of it. I mean, once again, I'm a trumpet player that kind of thought, oh, I'm decent, but you know, compared to the guys that were on the scene, Kenny Anderson, Elmer Brown, Kenny Van, Paul Sorensen, Chocolate. I mean, it's the list goes on and on of great trumpet players that were there. Honorable people in front of me that like I could not touch. Like these guys were like veterans, and I had a long way to go. And once again, you know, I've always been a humble person when it comes to learning. I definitely don't think I know it all, and these musicians were more than happy to help me. So I really owe a lot of my development to those gentlemen. And then also the band leaders, just from watching them and the professionalism and how they dealt with the public, how they dealt with behind the scenes with negotiations. You know, some good things, some bad things, but it's like at least I learned what I wanted to do or what I did not want to do when I become a band leader. So a lot of it was just a great learn of 2013 when me and you spoke about things for Puerto. Can you hear me okay on your
Yeah,
side?
yeah. I can hear you. I was like,
Okay.
I think I know it's going to start to rain, so sometimes it gets a little tricky with the with the connection here. So, but
Yeah, I know. One of my friends, Maria, was just saying that she thought that there was something wrong with my audio. So, but if you can hear me okay, or if anyone is hearing something strange, please let us
yeah,
know.
it's
Uh,
every so often you go into like yeah, your your audio kind of freaks out sometimes. So I know that some.
I apologize for that. Yeah, I'm down in the basement. So.
So one of the things that someone remarked on the 720, because I know we're talking of different places, and there was I think at the time, and that was about the time that I got into the Latin scene too, just like you.
Mhm.
I got into the Latin scene, 29 years ago. which isn't that really long ago compared to a lot of people that have been on the scene for a long time, pre 80s, and I don't, I it's there's a I think for us there's a pro and a con to that aspect. I think because we weren't influenced, okay, and take it for a grain of salt when I'm saying this, that we got into the music and we looked at the music and it molded us, as opposed to like writing with your right hand all your life and then you're trying to tell somebody you got to write with your left hand. We kind of had a blank slate going into this. So I think it helps us because we looked at it because you said you started as a jazz musician and you got into the Latin aspect, and there was like you got humbled right away. And I think that helps actually, because you basically are learning it from how can I say, a purist aspect of it, instead of like growing up and saying, oh God, but this is how my grandfather, like old school way of thinking. Because when you get into a craft like what you're doing now with the music, I think you learn it much differently.
Mhm.
And I think that helps, I mean, for me, it helped, honestly, it helped me, even though I don't speak Spanish, I don't, and I think everybody knows that I don't speak Spanish, but here I am, doing all the Latin stuff. And I look at also how people on the outside can hear it, I guess, differently than somebody who is hearing it like consistently. Do you understand what I'm talking about with it when it comes to you? Angel, if you're still there, I think I lost you for a bit. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Can you hear me? No, I can hear you. You kind of froze up on me though.
Okay.
But one thing real quick that I do want to point out, and I apologize that I overlooked this, but it was an immense help to me when I was in college. Is I want to say it was my second year, my sophomore year, because I only did 3 years at NIU before I left that summer to start playing with the first salsa band, and then going on to the cruise ship later on that summer. But when I was there, my second year, they implemented a Latin scholarship. It was the Tito Puente scholarship. He set up the foundation at the school to help with partial scholarship, which once again, my family didn't come from any kind of money, so I was always looking for loans or grants or some kind of scholarship or help with money. So that was immense help to me. I did not get a chance to meet him initially when that scholarship came out, but I believe it went to Latin, like I won't say the top Latin musician at NIU each year, but I think it was just available for maybe one person. So I got it the first year that it came out, which was my sophomore year. That would have been 92 probably. But so I got it that year. Really grateful. I knew who he was, and I studied the music and everything. And then, like, the great part of that whole thing is he came to play with the top jazz band. So there was three jazz bands. There was the bottom one, the intermediate, and the top one. Well, I was a lead trumpet player, so they needed a lead trumpet player for the bottom band and the middle band. So I was doing double duty and playing lead trumpet for both of those bands. I always wanted to play with the top band, but the top band normally used the lead player would be like a graduate student that came from out of state or something. So I never had an opportunity. All 3 years, never had an opportunity to play in that top band, which I always wanted to taste what that was like. Well, I got a little bit of the taste because Tito came and did a concert with them. And then, I got a chance to meet him before the concert. They picked him up in a limo from, I think, the school to take us to the theater, which, if my memory serves me correct, it was the Paramount Arts Theater in Aurora. So they took us over to the theater. I ride in the limo with him and the band leader, my future trumpet teacher, Ron Modell. And I'm just sitting like my dad. I'm not saying anything. I'm just sitting there amazed that I'm looking at this man who set up the scholarship and is helping me and was there to help Latin people and wanted to spread the Latin culture. And so I was eternally grateful to him. I got a chance to perform with the band on stage, and that was I don't even have a recording of that or anything, but I was on cloud nine during that whole thing. So that was I had that scholarship my second and third year. So, it reminds me of it whenever I see Tito Puente Juniors in town. I'm always reminded the kindness of his father, and it was just a great, great, humble man that I'm eternally grateful to him and him starting that scholarship. I don't know if it's still at NIU or if it stopped, but it definitely helped me, my sophomore and my junior year of college. So I definitely wanted to give him thanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things, because since you mentioned about Tito Puente and the jazz aspect of it, I think people don't realize there, even though it's different. I know Tito Puente was very much part of the jazz scene as well as the salsa scene, so
Yes.
it was hand in hand for him as well. And when I interviewed Tito Puente Jr., I forgot how many 148 albums or something like that
Uh,
the guy had. I think he's
immense, immense, and besides being a great, percussionist, good piano player, wrote arrangements, can write and read music, and a good, would play vibraphone. A great musician on playing that instrument too. So I got a chance to see him at the piano teaching the jazz pianists like how to play montunos and to play what we were doing at that time, Oye Como Va, and a lot of the stuff that his son does now when he comes to pay homage to his music. So, and it was amazing to hear, to see him live and to see his spirit and his energy, even though he was an older gentleman at that time, still, so much wisdom, and he was always willing to share it with whoever wanted it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you heard last night, Yesua talk about it, that the experience that he's seen was he forgot the scores, and he actually wrote them like right there for all the musicians. Took about 40 minutes, but he wrote them all, what you call it. And that's, and by memory,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of, and I think you, because you're a band leader and I've seen you do it. I've seen you write like,
Um,
so
Man, it's normal. It's normally it's normally out of lack of preparation on my end. Like, there's something that, dealing with the day job and music and the family and everything is like I'll be still rushing through music and writing last notes, and especially like for my percussionists, because a lot of them read music, and a lot of the music that's out there does not have music written for percussion. So a lot of the times for Brian or Danny or any of the guys that are playing in my band, I'll be writing charts up until the last minute, hot off the presses for them. They've never seen it. I hope it's right, and I write it, and they play it, and so far so good. Fingers crossed, it's worked out each time. So, and they're really good with giving me feedback of, hey, you should, next time write it this way. It makes it easier for us to read. They've helped me with my development too, and I think that's an important thing. And in my musical development is, education comes from people older than you and younger than you. Someone that's new on the scene or younger, 20 years my senior, my junior, does not mean that they're irrelevant what they have to say, because I'm learning from musicians of all levels, and not even necessarily trumpet players, but just people that a different way to approach music, or a different way to think about music, or a different way to practice.
Well, I mean, just and one of the things that I want to make sure that people we understand, um, and I'm sorry to say, like, I had to dummy it down in the sense, because some people who are listening right now aren't musicians. Okay,
No,
so
for
I just
sure.
want and one of the things I'm going to say that I've seen is that if I stand in the background and we the normal people see the results, meaning hear the results, I should say. So they're
Yes.
hearing the results, but in the background, and I get to see some in the background, and I'm watching you guys read the charts, different charts for different people,
Uh-huh.
and to me it's Chinese. I mean, like, honestly,
Right, right.
and it just blows my mind, because I'm seeing these what I would think is I would believe a song would be like 7 pages, but you guys are doing it off of 2 pages of music, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? Like,
Yeah, yeah. So like for the lay people out there that aren't musicians, and this goes for jazz too, a lot of our songs are built off lyrics. So if I'm reading a trumpet part, A majority of that song we're not performing. Like if you listen to music, you're going to hear the trumpets are not always playing. We play normally at the beginning. There's a little interlude. Then the singer does his thing and he improvises, and then we'll come in with a horn section that they call a mambo, and then that will be a short section, and then it'll go back to the singer improvising more. And then if there's a second mambo or ammonia, which is pretty much the same thing, just called by a different name, and then we go out. So a lot of like all that rest that we're not playing, we don't have to like read empty space. It's just like it's hard to explain in lay terms, but it's like for us, it's just like a little repeat section that we know, okay, we're not playing here until the next person tells us we're going to move forward. It's like reading the same chapter and chapter over in a book. Okay, now move on to the next chapter. And then we all know to move on. And you'll see me give some kind of weird signal or whistle or something like that. And that normally means, okay, we're moving on.
Well, that's kind of, but every kind of band member does the same thing. It's kind of the, it's not like, I mean, obviously you're a conductor as well as the being the putting it together. As a musician, when you guys are playing, and how do you, and I'm sure we wouldn't know, but have you ever experienced where I'm sure someone's off key, something's not right? How do you fix it in the midst of it?
Oh,
How do
sure. It happens quite a bit. I mean, it's, and to a lay person, they may not hear it. To a seasoned musician that knows the song, they're going to know right away if we messed up something. But normally, if the song does not stop or fall apart or something, a regular person would not know that anything happened. But yeah, there's always something going on, and that's really the whole spirit of live music that I love. Is that especially for a place like Dylan's or really any of the places that we perform at, you really never know what's going to happen. We have kind of a structure, like think of it as a basketball game or a football game or something. Well, okay, there's 100 yards, but you really don't know what's going to happen on this next play. We kind of just know that, okay, we're on offense right now, but and this is the design thing, but it might take a left, and then you're dealing with the quality of the musicians to cover up someone's mistake. If a singer comes in too early, the whole band has to adjust and go with the singer. At the end of the day, he's the leader of the group, whether or not he's right on his entrance. So that happens quite a bit, and we'll look around and kind of like, try to figure it out on the fly. But yeah, it's happened. The horns coming at the wrong time. Someone misses a cut. I mean, it happens. It happens more than I would like to admit. But it's really the spirit of live music that I like, and I love that challenge because, especially a place for Dylan's that we're not rehearsing. I'll send the guys the music. I'll send the guys the MP3s, even the singer. Okay, I never sung this song before, but let's try it. And for anyone listening, they think, oh, these guys must do this song all the time, or these guys must rehearse it. No, we're hearing it live just like we're hearing it live for the very first time. So I really love that aspect. I also love, for Alhambra, if we're going to have more of a prepared and polished show, if we're going to do a tribute for something and make sure that we pay homage, and treat the music with respect and rehearse it. It's still just one rehearsal. I don't think I've ever done more than one rehearsal to prepare for a show. So, time and budget, it just doesn't, we don't have the time or budget to really have multiple rehearsals. So normally one rehearsal is good enough that we can get it so that, it's on stage in a proper manner and we're paying respect to the tradition of the music.
Well, I know. So let's talk about, okay, so that's when you started playing. Let's talk about the experience that you have with Chicago and the salsa scene. We already mentioned, and you mentioned 9/11. I know, and that's a pinnacle part of, I think, for the live band scene. Because at one point, everybody was doing live, I should say every club was doing live bands. A salsa night could not have a salsa night without live bands, pre 9/11.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I think you could 1,000% agree with that. It was not salsa, but then 9/11 came in, and that changed the demographics of the salsa scene altogether. It really did. And I think at one point there was almost no salsa bands playing at any place.
Sure.
At one point. That, and so I know the heydays as then and you know, I'm not going to try to toot my own horn, but I think I was very instrumental in bringing live music back to Chicago, because I started having venues. True, that's where, you know, I think for you, me and you had many conversations when it came to live music, heavy live music, and especially being a Green Dolphin, and then obviously a Hamburg Palace. And when I mean the size of the venues is, um, the obviously where there was that it started creeping up, should I say, because I started seeing more venues started doing live music. It wasn't just, you know, it was becoming, and obviously different bands, you know, Nabori, hits, and I know that that's where you started playing with Nabori from Milwaukee,
Mhm.
and you were coming into the scene. And what happened with you right after 9/11? What happened with you as far as the doing the live band scene? So because I know that's
Right. I mean, for myself, I could really assimilate it to kind of like the situation we're going through now, where it was like a dead stop. Because much like now, people were scared to go out, and you know, is something going to happen? You know, they never know. Is there going to be another, you know, event that happens where people are going to get injured and stuff? So, for different reasons that people were scared at that time for terrorists, you know, implications or thinking that bad things were going to happen if they went somewhere. But much like the same mindset, I'm thinking kind of now that I'm not sure how the implementation of us going back out into the scene and working as musicians, if it's going to be any quicker than it was for 9/11. Because I remember for us, it never did return back to the heyday as far as the amount of musicians in a band, as far as the pay for the band. And there's numerous reasons for that. And you know, so, and you probably know this is financially, maybe the money wasn't coming from the most trustworthy sources pre 9/11. If you're dealing with people that were fronting money for these restaurants
okay. So
or
so
nightclubs.
interesting you say that, because I don't think people understood that.
Hmm.
And let's address that, because I think that's one of the things that people in the scene know it, but the regular people don't know it. So and I'm gonna say it, pre 9/11, nightclubs and the drug aspect of it. Let's put it the which I should say, because the drugs the drug scene was prominent. Let's put it that
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And club owners were making money, not just on the drinks. Let's put it that way. And I'm not going to mention who club owners are,
Hmm.
but that was where the money flowing in was different, was coming in differently. So there was a lot of cash coming in. So people were spending it, you know, and that was down. Here comes 9/11. Here comes that change also the way clubs can operate as well.
Hmm.
So there was that changed the way that people could make money, spend money. It couldn't be just like, oh, here's $1,000 and here you go. Hey, we're good to go, you know. And where did $1,000 come from? You know, they had
Yeah.
to have, you know, the P's and Q's of where everything was at. So that changed the industry as well. And it's not trying to say it was, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that the drug aspect of it, or the drug dealing aspect of it was like like everybody was doing drugs in the club. No, it wasn't like that at all. But what I'm saying is that people had deep pockets back then,
Yeah,
whereas now,
it definitely appeared that way. I mean, I wasn't a band leader. I did not deal with the owners or managers of these institutions directly, so I can't speak on. Um, I know for sure where this money was coming from, but all I know is that there were a lot of bands playing. Everyone was getting paid well. Now, the other aspect of this too, pre 9/11, is I would say the culture of the people coming out to support the music was definitely much more Hispanic as far as the percentage. Places like, you know, it was nowhere near the diversity of what the scene is now. And people were willing to pay more money for cover too. So, not to put a blanket money was coming from bad sources everywhere, because there was legit money coming from people that were out there spending money. They were paying 10, 15, $20 cover with no problem. They buying drinks and food while they were at the place. So when you have that kind of financial wherewithal where people are spending that kind of money, it makes it a lot easier that, okay, sure, we can afford this band because the money's coming in. I'm sure there's some percentage of the things that you're talking about. I don't know if it was greater percentage of reputable sources versus irreputable sources. I don't know that, but I just know the culture then was different as far as who was coming out. And one thing that I did love about that time on the scene was how much the dancers and the musicians were one unit. Um, our best dancers in the city were their part of the scene. They would definitely not as separated. We see them if there's a dance contest or something like that. As far as the top level dancers, we'll see their students come out and stuff because they come out to practice and to dance and to get better and to improve their craft. But as far as like the top dancers back in that day, those guys were on the scene with us. A lot of them have become instructors now, and they have their own schools, and we don't see them that much anymore. And sometimes it's just life differences. You get older, you have kids, marriage, divorce, whatever it is, that change your ability to come out and be in the night scene anymore. But I would love if we can get our culture back to the dancers and the musicians reuniting and becoming a force again, because we really don't have that bond, that kinship with them anymore. And I really loved at that time seeing the best dancers follow their favorite band around from venue to venue. That was a good feeling.
Right, that changed the demographics of that's what I said, after 9/11, that changed the demographics of it, just like what's happening right now with COVID. And I know this is going to change the demographics of the scene now. But we were, I guess, I felt we were in an upswing, and um, me and you had a conversation. It's going, what, 7 years ago? Is it what, the creation of Humboldt Park Orchestra?
Yes, sir. Yeah, December of 2013. So it'll be 7 years. This coming December.
Right, right. So 7 years ago, me and you had a conversation, and the reason why was because I felt that the big bands weren't there anymore as much as I would like them to be. And when I say big bands, most bands were coming out 5-piece, 6-piece, 7-piece, and I was like, man, I would like that feel back, because when the heydays, it was a 12-piece band. That was like you couldn't have a salsa band without a 12-piece. That was kind of the way it was. Three horns. That you didn't have that. I mean,
Yeah, right. When I was with Isla, it was a 12-piece band. It was three front singers, three percussion, four horns, piano, and bass. And each of the singers were immensely talented. That's when we had Greg, we had Tito, and we had Billy, and rotated a couple of different singers throughout the group. Uh, but yeah, those were great times. And in the really for me, the education. Thank God that I got that education at that time, and the love for both styles of music. Because a lot of I shouldn't say that, because I was going to say back then the bands were kind of playing both styles between merengue and salsa in the mid '90s. But really, Chevrolet from Aurora was the only group that I know that did it that prevalently. Because when I came on the scene in Chicago, it was kind of one or the other. Those bands like kind of picked a side, and that's what they were really good at. So on the salsa side, I was with Isla, I was with Jesus, I was with Orquesta Sabor, I was with Carlitos Rey. I was with like all the powerhouses on the salsa side, and then on the merengue side, I was with Freddie Kenton. I'm sorry, and Carpaccio too. I always forget. My apologies, Carpaccio, which I had the pleasure of subbing in when his regular trumpet player wasn't available. They would call me. Back at that time, it was myself, it was Carol on bone, and I believe it was Beatrice on sax. So that was I love playing with them because that was a whole different thing. That was Colombian salsa, which I was getting a education of the difference between salsa from Colombia versus salsa from Puerto Rico, and how to play that music authentically. And then for the merengue side, it was just all those banda dura and Merenguito and Benji Sumana Banda. It was so many elite musicians on both sides that I'm really honored to have worked with all of those gentlemen and ladies over that time that helped inspire me and helped me so that when I became a band leader, I felt like I kind of had some knowledge. I'm still learning so much as a band leader and as a musician and as a trumpet player, but I feel like I kind of have some kind of foundation. I try not to get too brave because every time I do that, I get humbled again. So I just at this point just say I don't know anything and every day I'm looking to keep on learning.
Well, I think as any musician slash DJ slash promoter, we're always learning our craft, and that's kind of what one of the things. So, Angel, I ask you a personal note. When was the first time we met, or maybe we had crossed paths? When do you think one was probably because you obviously had to been at Tropicana when I was there, and I don't think we.
Yeah, I had to have been there. I don't think that we met personally at that time. I remember doing 720 as a musician and as just a patron and coming. I'm pretty sure I remember you being the person out in line collecting the money, like at the front door for 720. So I saw you peripherally, but I don't believe that we even knew each other at that point. And
Right.
that was post 9/11. So we must have met post 9/11 because I don't think we were friends pre 9/11 on a personal level. I think at least I knew who you were or saw you because you were, someone of some kind of statue. You had some kind of stature on the scene, but I did not. I was just a musician. And I had hair then and everything, so I probably even looked much different. So
So that, yeah, I was wondering because I remember when because I would mostly talk to the band leaders. And there was the musicians, that would be like, but if the conversation was, and most of the like, I know Tropicana, that was Maldonado. That was
mhm,
always Maldonado, who was dealing with all the band members and stuff like that.
yes,
So it was always so I was dealing with the management. That
hmm
was kind of, and then it would be a band leader, or I would know the singer because we would just communicate, and most of it was, because if I was DJing, it would be like, okay, what time are you going on? What time are you ending? So I need to make sure that we're in sync with that. And that was the conversation, or talking to the band, like Maldonado, or okay, the time is a little late. What time? I would ask the band member, hey, what time? And that was kind of our conversations, but I wouldn't. Now I have a different communication because I talk to everybody now.
sure,
I talk
sure.
to everybody in the whole entire band. I talk to everybody, and we'll talk about life. I know,
Well, I'll tell you.
uh, and I think that changed differently because me becoming a promoter as opposed to just the DJ now. And now I'm dealing with everybody. I'm dealing with
Sure.
every aspect of the what you call. So like I said, 7 years ago, me and you had a conversation, and I think that was at the front door. And so we were talking at the
Yeah.
front door,
Yeah.
and that was and you said to me very eloquently, dude, it's gonna just take money. Yeah, that was kind of
Yeah.
your that was your and I told you, like in one swoop, okay, do it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was kind of and then it snowballed into the Humble Park Orchestra, the logo, and
Yeah.
and then you know and I think I one of the aspects of that was, I was very adamant about people hearing the same songs all the time. And I think Tino had mentioned that that's one of the things that I think got a little frustrating because we kept hearing the same covers
hmm
all the time. And and I even joked about it. I said, man, I went to Cubby and I heard this cover, and then I'm here, I'm having this band over here and they're playing that cover. They say, so how many times can I hear,
hmm
that was why, the Willie Colon, And I was just like, oh my God, this is it. We need something different. We need something fresh. And and I was a little bit more looking at it because, you know, I as a person who loves music, you know, hearing it, I dancing it, sure, I'm sure it was all good, but at the same time, hearing it, it was like, okay, how many times it's going to get too repetitive, and we got to stay fresh. And you know, I was always about looking at the bigger picture, looking at what's going to make this scene more exciting, you know, and I think that helped grow the scene. And when we started doing the tributes and started bringing in these artists and stuff like that, because I know me and you always are in the conversation about, hey man, who can I bring in? Who can I bring back into Chicago? Who can I, you know, we always talk about, you know, and you can list off a bunch of names that I brought in because of you, because you have suggested it, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, and Lucito Rosario, you know, kind of the
Mhm.
conversation. What's his name from Puerto Rico?
Yeah, bringing in Kayvon
Kayvon, yeah, yeah.
was a great talent, and someone that, man, I know that he was watching the show earlier. His English isn't on par, but much love to him, because I know that he's always a part of supporting us here in the scene, and he's always down for coming out here to perform. And I don't even know if you know, he's an amazing trumpet player. Also, he's not just a vocalist.
I didn't know that.
He actually played trumpet prior to sing. Yeah, he plays trumpet actually quite a bit out there. When I go travel to PR and I get a chance to hang out with him, there's a spot they do every Thursday out in Santurce, Puerto Rico, called Club Mihani. So if anyone that's out there, hopefully it'll be back up and running. A bass player from out there, Julio Badillo, has a group that plays there every Thursday, and Kayvon was singing there, but then they have Julio Lopez, who's also a singer, a great singer from Puerto Rico, that sings there, and Kayvon plays trumpet for him, and great trumpet player. I mean, the guy's multi-talented.
So and then the other one is Lisette Morales,
Mhm.
that we you know, that's another one who you know, and I think if you know
Yeah,
me, if you know
Lisette
me,
and Lisette, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Lisette was a great talent. And how I became aware of her was when the Celia Cruz play came through town. Um, Isidro Infante, who was a piano player that had worked with Celia for many years from Puerto Rico, had put they I don't know if he designed the play or not, but they had a play that came through the city. I think we were here in the city for like a week. I think mainly musicians from here. I want to say it was Isidro and Niall. Niall Jaime, the bass player, has a brother that nickname is Gasu. So Gasu is a trumpet player, amazing trumpet player, and he came with that show. So me and him played trumpet for that show. Gasu also plays trumpet, or was playing trumpet for La India when she used to tour with her group, and he's also one of the current trumpet players for Sonora Ponceña. So a great trumpet player. But and that's another thing, just the kinship with the musicians from PR. Either when I go out there or when they come out here, trumpet players just, they always show love, and it's like, as long as you're willing to learn, and you don't have to be the best guy, but they love humble people, and people that are eager to learn. And I've made a wealth of friends over there. When I go to the island, that I can call up, and just being next to these guys and listening to them is like having free trumpet lessons, just because I'm always paying attention to what they're doing. It's amazing.
so I mean, but one of the things that everybody, I think all the musicians know, sure said, band. If I'm very loyal with the bands, and in a perfect example, Tito Puente Jr. I think this is going to would have been our 9th year bringing him here in Chicago.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
on a yearly basis. Lisette now, what 3 years or 4 years
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
In fact, I don't know if you knew this, but I was planning to bring Lucito Rosario in May. I had conversations in January with him, and if he's listening, I says, and unfortunately, obviously these guys, I was always trying to trying to bring back all the time,
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and they've all been class acts. They've all been great vocalists to work with, and to try to help push their product. Guys, either with their first album or kind of new to, the scene as far as not new vocalists, but like new trying to push their original material. And they deserve to be, out there and prominent in what they're doing because they're very good at their craft.
And then obviously I'm working with Carmen Aguilera because she's getting me different musicians as well. And then we did the warriors of the soldiers warriors. We did that thing with Edwin and Isla. What's her name? We did last year at
Pieces.
Isis. We did that,
Yes.
and that was incredible. An incredible the thing what we did, and obviously COVID kids around, and we're working with Dylan's, and we're doing that every other Saturday, and obviously doing Alhambra, and I was trying, bringing in the live bands, and I think there was, and then Mike Yo was doing his thing out there in Rosemont, and I was starting to see an upswing of live music happening, and obviously Cubby Bear, doing every Sunday, and it was
and really most importantly that a lot of the groups taking ownership of their music and trying to put out original material and really trying to put a mark on the scene of who they are, their identity. From Nathan's band Conjunto Borican to Enrique Calderon doing his thing, Junior Rivera from Milwaukee, Afincao, which was probably the first of the modern groups, and then Jesus, who's been from the mid '90s, it was big with RMM. So we're no shortage here for talent in the city, and all those groups need to be commended for really putting out original material, and that's something that I had endeavors to try to do last year, as a matter of fact. And then this year I said, okay, for sure, I want to get in the studio and do something for Humboldt Park, but the concept for me is so different from how I approach it from most of the other groups, just because I really don't have any set singers or set musicians. The concept from when we first spoke was really trying to get the best talent in the city. As a matter of fact, you wanted like, hey, is there any way we can get all these different band leaders together? Okay, someone can probably do it. Whether or not it could have been me, I wasn't sure, because yeah, I've been on the scene for a long time, but my musicianship, my reputation, the respect that they have for me, sometimes people are a little bit hesitant if they don't think that you're going to put together a good project to have their name put out there. And luckily for me, all of them said yes. I don't want to do any disservice and forget any people. I'm gonna do my best to do, and you can probably correct me on this. I know that I had that like big poster that you had from the first concert, and I can't find it now, but I want to put this on the wall behind me just so that I have it as a memory of my very first concert that I had. But I know that that first group was Robert Figueroa singing. It was Edwin Sanchez on piano. It was Oscar Lopez on bass. It was, I want to say, and I'm sorry, guys, if I miss anyone on here, but I want to say it was Junito Gonzalez Victor on congas. It was Dennis Calito on timbales. It was Ellis Vargas on bongo. It was myself on trumpets. It was Victor Garcia on trumpets. It was Joe Mendy on trombone. Now here's the second trombone player that I always miss. I always want to say that it was Tony that was on that first gig with me. And I'm sorry if someone can correct me out there in Facebook land. I'm not sure if it was Tony. Tony's been on so many hits with me that I'm so used to him always being with me wherever I perform. But for now,
I thought it was Angel Melendez.
I'm sorry. You are correct. You see, I'm already wrong. So yes, you are correct, and I'm sorry, Angel, who I owe so much to, musically and personally, has always been there for me. When I was starting my group, reaching out, leaning on him, leaning on Oscar Lopez, who I owe so much to. I just love those guys that they were there for me. And hey, if you need any music for your band, I got plenty.
But
Angel was running, 5 different salsa bands at the time when I got back in the 90s. So, and I don't know, I mean, one groups and dealing with so many, just multitasking. And I'm so sorry. Yes, Angel Melendez was a trombone player, and it was really just everyone kind of representing their own band, either they have it or like they were an
Well, it was the
instrumental
cream
part
of the
on the show.
crop, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and that's right, and that's really no disrespect to all the other musicians, because since then I've been able to work with so many other guys, since that time. But that first group for me is always going to hold a special place in my heart, just because they were the ones to really give me the chance to be a band leader. And since then, I've always been trying to become a better band leader, a more professional, more everything, just for them, because really they're the thing that pushes the group. It's not me. I don't like my name really being attached to the group. I love the fact that people think that the singers are the leaders. That's fine with me. I really don't have any kind of ego when it comes to that. I just want the music to be at a high quality. I want the dancers to enjoy it. One concept that I try to stick to is try to have the music short enough that the dancers are not upset at us, because that's easy to happen. I'm a dancer. I love to dance too. So I kind of know that 5 to 6 to 7 minute mark is about it. I don't push it to 9, 10 minutes, even though as musicians, believe me, we love to stretch stuff and show what we can do, but that's really for a different setting. If it's more of a concert style thing where people really aren't dancing, we'll stretch it out. But if I could see people are really into the music, then yeah, we're going to be respectful to the dancers, because we're really there for them. And for the people that aren't dancing and are just sitting down and enjoying the music, we're there for them also.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. Difference between a salsa band that's performing on a salsa night and a concert setting.
Mhm.
And and people got to understand that concert setting, that's going to be a different way of the music being played. It's just, or should I say, sets being, they're not 6 minute sets. Those are basically performance, and then obviously a salsa band. Um, and I know we're going a little past the time, and that's okay. But I just
Yeah,
wanted
I'm sorry. I don't even know how long we've been on, so I
to.
always like
I know,
I
it
always
goes
get
by
lost on
quick.
the time aspect. I apologize if I'm pushing you past the time here.
No, 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 no. You trust me. I won 2 hours yesterday, so it was all good. So I just wanted to see where you also have a unique situation with you personally, because with this COVID thing, you're dealing with also on your day job. I don't know if people know this, but you work for the city of Chicago as well, and you're
Mhm.
dealing with the public, or you're dealing with the COVID on a different level, and having to be protective in that way. So
Mhm.
in this era of this COVID, yeah, where do you think it's going to happen and going forward? What is your concept of what's going to happen, because you deal with your band members now?
Right, right. Yeah, I'm not that well versed in the medical opinions of. I'm really trusting them and hoping that the information that we're getting is good. As long as they're saying the physical distancing of people, and as far as how long the virus lasts right now and things like that. For myself as a band leader, that's going to be important, because obviously, if we have any offers to perform anywhere from here on out until we're told otherwise and things are back to kind of normal, I need to really be aware of the distancing of us as musicians on stage, having the proper distancing, for things like we use microphones and things. So things like that. What's the safety precautions of that? I have to verify that I have enough microphones so everyone has one. If I have more than one singer that night, that they don't use the same microphone. Things like that that I have to be worry, and look out for their health. Until I'm told otherwise, I have to err on the side of caution, just because I am responsible for all the musicians that I have when it comes to that, and making sure that we're number one in the safe. And me and you talked about this the other day, is for myself to feel comfortable until things change. I just need to make sure that we have the proper social distancing or I'm sorry, physical distancing for us on stage. And as long as the venues are on the up and up, as far as keeping their percentage of people to where it should be, then, I personally won't have any issue. I know some of my friends that have already had some issues with venues that, way over capacity, really don't set up anything for the musicians. It's different if you have musicians that all feel comfortable. Hey, we're all adults. If guys, that's not important to them, then that's not important to them. For myself, it's a priority just because, I want to make sure that my musicians are taken care of, just like in any other respect, even before this, that they're taken care of professionally, they're taken care of financially. If we don't get paid that night, I want to make sure I take care of them just because I want to take care of my musicians. I want to make sure that I have a good reputation and that they want to continue working with me.
Yeah, that's the big unknowns at this point. I know
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, I don't know what the new normal is going to be. All I know is looking back pre 9/11, it never got back to that heyday. So, and not like this pre-COVID was a heyday, but I sure hope it can get back to that at least, if not get better, because if it doesn't even get back to that for us at the live music level, it's going to be a very sad scene if we can't even go back to 7 or 8 piece bands anymore financially, because the wherewithal for yourself as a promoter or any kind of owner of a event is the finances have to be coming in order for you to pay out. So if the money's not coming in at the door, you can love live music all you want and want to push live music, but unless you have a wealth of money on a personal level, or you can find a musical philanthropist that has money and they want to keep the culture alive. Hey, if there's any out there, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Puerto, or reach out to any of the Latin people that are really trying to keep the culture alive, because I don't know if we're going to need private help or sponsorship, things like that, just to function again and to get us back to a level that musicians could be out there honing their craft again. Hopefully not, but I really don't know what it's going to become. Who would ever thought pre 9/11 versus post that was possible? So I don't want to be presumptive and think that we're going to go right back to how it was before.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, because that's the big unknown, because I'm talking to I talked to the Drake, talked to Dylan's, talking to all the venues, and there's the big unknowns of even if they're going. Let's say it opens up, but because of the stipulations of the how many people they can get in, can a business survive? Just as a business, that's it's great that we're talking about, let's be honest with you, most of the places that I have are restaurants slash nightlife.
Sure.
So as a restaurant, they have to survive just on their own, and
Correct.
that in itself is as a business, if it's a restaurant slash bar, can they survive? In the next, right now it's July, August, September, and then here comes flu season again.
Well, no, not just right, and not even just flu season, but me and through the live performance aspect that we slow down typically every winter anyways. So that's always a time that maybe there's not as much live music, just because a place like Alhambra, it's hard to keep having it there for that budget of what we get paid there. For you to snow outside, and people aren't coming through your door to put money in the bucket. So that's the hard part on our side, is that we love live music and we want it to continue, and I'm really hoping that it can. But I think on our end as musicians, even though I'm not a full-time musician, a lot of them have to be learning new crafts and learning new skills, whether it's recording from home, whether it's taking on students that you're teaching now that maybe you weren't a teacher before, or writing music remotely, teaching remotely. I mean, it's just a lot of different skills that we may have to come across and have to start utilizing just to function financially in the meantime. Because if you're a piano player or a bass player, okay, you can already start, like Roy, like my good friend Roy McGrath is already back out playing. Some of the things he's doing as a 2-piece band, a 3-piece band, is he can function that way as a trio. For what I do, in the genre of music that I'm trying to stay true to. It's hard to do that because I need to have a, 7 minimum piece band to go out there and
Right,
make the music sound authentic. Anything less than that, I'd be disrespecting the music. So I've even on a personal level
right.
been looking into maybe doing just a quartet or a quintet of just Latin jazz or something different, to stretch out musically and do some other things other than straight ahead salsa music. But
Right.
those are things that I'm going to have to decide on a personal level too, on how to still survive and still be able to musically thrive. Can you hear me okay, Preto?
Something where people could come out. And I think that's going to be part of what it needs to happen for the scene. Um, I think we're going to be in a very precarious situation for the next 3 months. I say 3 months because even though I hear in places opening up, we know places are closing down too, or should I say, people are getting stopped, like what's happening in California, Texas, and Florida, because they opened up. But just talking to someone, I was talking to Aswam and Mike Rivera today. They're back to normal, doing events out in Italy, which was
Sure,
the,
sure.
you know,
One of the
and
hotspots, right? I mean, and at the end of the day, I guess you have the right to do whatever game plan that you want to put together. The truth is going to be, will be self-evident in what you do. If you go out there too soon and you don't take this serious, you're going to see those numbers go back up. If you were doing the right thing, then you won't see those numbers go back up. So we're going to
right.
find if you have to be respectful of it, and if the medical community and our lawmakers are saying, for right now, let's be err on the side of caution, then, let's
I,
do that for now, just so we can thrive at the end instead of
I
rush,
think I think
rush
in
out the gates here and pay for it at the end
right.
and
I
have to
think
take another hiatus.
Chicago is doing it correctly. I should have say it's if you look at all the numbers, the we're doing a slower kind of drive. We're not peaking, and then I guess that's the if we can lead by example, then by all means let us lead by example.
Yeah. Well, I one thing I do like and actually love about this time, for myself is it's allowed us to, and I mentioned this a lot with the people that I interview. It's allowed us to go back to home, go back to ground zero, when it comes to, when everything is broken down and you're sick or whatever. You always want to go back home. Is going back home always makes you feel better. So for us, it's becoming humbled and saying that the arts can be taken away from us very easily by something that we can't control. And now that
Right.
we are able to hopefully control the spread of this, we need to be responsible about that, so that, every single person that comes through that door as a promoter or a business owner, I hope that they have much more respect for the community that comes out to support their events now. That those customers that come out have much more respect for the musicians that come out, and perform for them. That just on both sides of it, that everyone is much more appreciative of the arts in general, whether it's dancing, singing, acting, whatever it is that you like to do, just because, we, once again, we can't take this for granted. So every single person that comes and gives us their hard-earned money or gives us time when they don't have to, they can stay at home. We have to be appreciative of that now as artists, just because they're helping us still function.
Right, and I think that's um, we're going to, what someone said, you know who your true friends are at times when our backs are against the wall, so that's kind of
Yes,
what
sir.
that's,
Yes, sir.
and we're definitely all our backs are against the wall at this point. So that's
Yes, sir. And I hope that, and I think for the most part, the musicians, and it's hard. I mean, I really feel for the full-time musicians to keep their spirits high and their hopes high. And it's easy to, get despondent and get negative in times like this, that, as much as possible. And I try to point this out as much as possible. It's just, if you know someone that lives off of music or has been greatly affected by this, reach out to them and just make sure their spirits are okay and things, because, what I don't want to happen, what I don't want to see happen is we come back out of this and, you're going to be able to quickly tell, the people that have applied themselves and been honing their craft during this time versus the people that have not really paid attention to their instrument or their voice or anything, because for whatever reason, it's hard to keep your focus and to stay disciplined and then keep getting better. But as musicians, we have to, because, or as vocalists, we have to, because at the end of the day, when things open back up, we want to go out there at a high level still and be able to perform for the people.
Right, cool. Well, any last words you want to say to the people who logged in to Angel?
I mean, yeah, I appreciate everyone that's taking the time to check us out tonight. First and foremost, to my family, my stepdad, my mom, that probably are not out there. They're not that tech savvy. But I love my mom. We'll get her to figure out how to work Facebook pretty soon. To my family, that has always been supportive to me, my wife and kids. Just because so much of our time as musicians is taken away from the home. New Year's, birthday parties, anniversaries, all that stuff, and I have a great support system that allows me to go out there and really pursue my dreams. So I'm most thankful to them, and then obviously to everyone out there that loves the arts and loves live music and supports Humble Parker and supports any of the groups here in the city, the salsa scene in general. Even if you don't come out to see us, go out to see whatever live music you can and really support the live arts.
Cool. Thank you very much, Angel. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Yes.
Everybody, thank you joining in. And then if you haven't heard, the front door show will be on this Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and starting from this point forward, it starts Monday through Thursday. So we got some great shows coming up, and I'll be marketing them as well. So thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care, brother.